For 3 years, I worked 60-hour weeks as a construction manager to support my girlfriend Amanda financially. I paid for her apartment car payments, design school tuition, and living expenses, while she pursued her dream career. Then one day I discovered she had been cheating on me with Jared, a wealthy real estate developer she met at a networking event that I had paid for her to attend. When I confronted her about the affair, she had the audacity to assume I would continue bankrolling her life. Before I tell you how I discovered her betrayal and what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever had your generosity taken advantage of. I met Amanda 4 years ago, at my college friend Derek's housewarming party. I had just landed a promotion at the construction company where I had been working since graduation, and Derek insisted I come celebrate. I almost skipped it after a long day overseeing a commercial project downtown, but something told me to go. That something turned out to be Amanda. She stood out immediately in the crowded apartment. Long auburn hair, bright green eyes that crinkled when she laughed, and an energy that seemed to draw everyone into her orbit. Derek introduced us, mentioning she was his girlfriend's roommate and had just moved to the city to pursue interior design. Sterling builds things, Amanda designs them. You two should have plenty to talk about, Derek said before disappearing to greet other guests. We ended up talking for hours on Derek's balcony long after most guests had left. Amanda shared her dreams of starting her own interior design firm someday, specializing in sustainable materials and functional spaces. I was captivated not just by her beauty, but by her passion and creativity. Our first date was the following weekend, a simple dinner at a local Italian restaurant. That led to a second date at an architecture exhibit, then a third exploring the vintage furniture district downtown. Each moment together confirmed what I felt that first night: there was something special between us. For the first year, our relationship was balanced. We both worked shared expenses when we went out and supported each other emotionally. I was advancing at my construction company, taking on larger projects and management responsibilities. Amanda had found a job at a high-end retail store while taking night classes in design. Money was tight for her, but she managed. Everything changed when her retail company downsized, eliminating her position along with dozens of others. Amanda was devastated. Jobs in retail were scarce, and without a completed degree design, firms were not interested in hiring her even as an assistant. "I do not know what I am going to do," she confessed over dinner at my apartment, eyes red from crying. "My savings will barely cover next month's rent." I had just received another promotion and was in a comfortable financial position. Without hesitation, I offered to help. "Let me cover your rent for a couple of months while you focus on finding the right job," I suggested. "No need to settle for something you will hate just to make ends meet." The relief and gratitude in her eyes made any financial sacrifice worth it. She found a part-time position at a home decor boutique 2 months later, but the hours conflicted with her design classes. That was when our financial dynamic truly shifted. "What if I quit the boutique and focus entirely on finishing my design program?" she proposed one evening. "I could complete my degree a year earlier and start my career sooner." It made logical sense. I was earning more than enough to support us both, and her education was an investment in our future together. Amanda had moved in with me by this point, so her only expenses were her car payment, tuition, and personal spending. "I can make it work," I assured her. "Your career matters to me too." And so our new normal was established. I worked increasingly long hours managing construction sites while Amanda attended design school full-time. When I came home exhausted from dealing with subcontractors and permit issues, she would have dinner prepared and the apartment looking immaculate. On weekends, she would show me her design projects, eyes bright with passion and possibility. I took pride in being the foundation that allowed her dreams to flourish. My father had always taught me that a man takes care of his family, and though we were not married, I considered Amanda my future wife. I paid her tuition each semester, covered her car payments, when they came due handled all household expenses, and gave her a generous amount for personal spending. The financial burden grew steadily. Design school was expensive, and Amanda needed specialized software materials for projects and networking event tickets to build connections in the industry. She also insisted on maintaining a certain appearance, arguing that in design circles personal presentation was part of one's professional brand. My closest friend Marcus expressed concern over beers one night. "Are you sure about this arrangement? Sterling seems like you are carrying a lot while she contributes." What exactly? I defended our situation, explaining how Amanda was investing in her future, which I saw as our future. When she graduates and launches her career, this will all pay off. She will do the same for me if I ever wanted to pursue something different. But over the last few months, Subtle changes had begun to worry me. Amanda's shopping bags from luxury brands appeared with increasing frequency. She began attending industry events and after-parties that ran late into the night. Her affection toward me cooled with excuses of stress and exhaustion, replacing our formerly active physical relationship. Still, I trusted her. I believed in us. That trust was what made the discovery of her betrayal all the more devastating. Last month, I was overseeing the final phase of a major office complex renovation downtown. The hours were brutal, often requiring me to be on site from 6 a.m. until 8 or 9 at night to ensure deadlines were met. Amanda and I had barely seen each other for weeks, communicating mostly through texts and brief phone calls. On a Thursday, we unexpectedly resolved several critical issues ahead of schedule, allowing me to leave the site by 3 p.m. I decided to surprise Amanda with dinner reservations at the upscale restaurant she had been mentioning for months. I stopped by a florist, picking up her favorite lilies, and headed to our apartment, with plans to change before meeting her after her afternoon class. The first sign something was wrong came when I opened our apartment door. A distinctly masculine cologne hung in the air, one I definitely did not wear. In the living room, an unfamiliar leather portfolio sat on the coffee table next to 2 empty wine glasses. In the bedroom, the sheets were disheveled despite Amanda's usual insistence on making the bed each morning. My stomach dropped. I checked the closet and noticed several of her dresses, missing the ones she typically reserved for special occasions. The bathroom counter held more evidence, a men's watch that was not mine, apparently forgotten in haste. I texted Amanda came home early. Whose watch is on the bathroom counter? 20 minutes passed with no response. Then, what are you doing home? I thought you were stuck at the site until late. Not a denial. Not an explanation. Just deflection. I sent another message. Answer the question, Amanda. A classmate stopped by to work on a project. We must have misplaced it. The lie was so transparent it almost hurt more than the betrayal itself. I sat down at our shared laptop, which Amanda often forgot to log out of. Her social media accounts were still signed in. What I found shattered any remaining doubt. Photos from the past weekend showed Amanda at a rooftop bar I had never seen, arm wrapped around a tall, well-dressed man with a confident smile. The caption read, "Perfect evening with this amazing man." Comments from her friends revealed his name, Jared. There were dozens of pictures going back 3 months. Amanda and Jared at gallery openings, at exclusive restaurants, on a weekend trip to wine country. All posted when she told me she was at study groups or design workshops. All paid for by the money I worked overtime to provide. I dug deeper, finding direct messages between them. Their exchanges were intimate and explicit, leaving no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Worse, they discussed me directly. "Does Sterling suspect anything?" Jared had asked. "Not a chance," Amanda replied. "He is too busy working to notice what I do. Besides, he trusts me completely." Another exchange cut even deeper. "When are you going to end things with the construction guy?" Jared wrote. "It is complicated," she answered. "We live together, and there are financial considerations." Financial considerations. 3 years of love and support reduced to a line item in her life budget. I was still sitting there staring blankly at the screen when I heard her key in the lock. Amanda entered wearing a new dress I had never seen, carrying shopping bags from designer stores. She froze when she saw me. "Sterling, what are you doing here?" "Discovering the truth," I replied, turning the laptop toward her. "Who is Jared?" Her face cycled through shock, fear, and finally a strange relief, as if a burden had been lifted. "I was going to tell you. When after I paid next semester's tuition." "That is not fair," she protested weakly. "Not fair." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "I have paid for everything in your life for 3 years while you have been sleeping with someone else." Amanda's defense crumbled quickly under the weight of evidence. Jared was a real estate developer she had met at a networking event 3 months ago, the very event I had paid $500 for her to attend. He was wealthy, connected in the design world, and according to her, exciting in ways I apparently was not. "He can take me places you never could," she said, a statement so breathtakingly cruel, I almost admired her honesty. "Jared moves in circles that can advance my career." "And what about us? Our relationship? Did that mean anything to you?" Her answer revealed everything. Of course it did. It does. What Jared and I have is mostly physical. You and I have history. We have a life together. That was when I understood the full picture. She had been using Jared for excitement and connections while relying on me for financial stability. In her mind, she saw no contradiction, no betrayal in this arrangement. She genuinely expected it to continue. Does Jared know you live with your boyfriend? That I pay for your car, your tuition, your clothes? Her silence was answer enough. I need space, I said, grabbing essential items for a few nights away. I will be staying at my brother's place. As I headed for the door, Amanda called after me, suddenly concerned. What about the rent payment due next week? And my car insurance? I left without answering her question, echoing in my head as the ultimate confirmation of what I had meant to her all along. Over the next days, Amanda alternated between apologetic messages claiming she had made a terrible mistake and practical inquiries about bill payments and financial obligations. Each message clarified my next steps with increasing certainty. My brother Kyle's guest room became my sanctuary during the week following my discovery. He asked few questions, simply providing space and occasional bourbon as I processed what had happened. On the third night after I had recounted the full story, he asked the question that began my financial awakening. Do you actually know how much money you have spent on her? I did not in total. I had paid bills, as they came transferred money, when Amanda asked, handed over my credit card without tracking the totals. Now I needed to know. The next morning, I began a meticulous review of bank statements, credit card bills, and financial records from the past year. The total was staggering, $47,638. Nearly $50,000 in a single year, on someone who had betrayed me in the most personal way possible. Monthly, rent $1,800, car payment, and insurance $560. Tuition and educational supplies, $22,000 annually. Credit card payments varying but averaging $1,200. Monthly cash for personal expenses, $800. Monthly vacations, gifts, dining out approximately $8,000 annually. My friend Patrick, a financial advisor, reviewed my situation when we met for lunch. The good news, he said carefully, is that you have been smart about some things. The apartment lease is in your name only. The car is in her name, so that is her responsibility. The tuition payments were made directly to the school, so no obligation there. I nodded, relieved that my financial entanglement was not worse. The bad news, Patrick continued, is that you have enabled a lifestyle she cannot maintain without you. Cutting her off financially will be like pulling the rug out from under her entire life. Be prepared for significant pushback. That afternoon I called Amanda and calmly explained my decision. I will not be paying any more of your expenses. Not rent, not car payments, not tuition, not credit cards. Nothing. Her response was predictably emotional. You cannot just cut me off. What am I supposed to do? That is not my problem anymore, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice remained. You made your choice when you decided to cheat with Jared. It was a mistake. I was confused. Please, Sterling, I need you. You need my money, I corrected. There is a difference. The following days brought an escalating series of messages, first pleading, then angry, then manipulative. She reminded me of good times, made promises about our future, claimed Jared meant nothing. When emotional appeals failed, she shifted tactics, suggesting I was legally obligated to continue supporting her since she had become dependent on me. A quick consultation with a lawyer friend confirmed what I already suspected: I had no legal obligation whatsoever. Without marriage, without written agreements, my financial support had been entirely voluntary and could be withdrawn at any time. 10 days after discovering the affair, I returned to the apartment to collect the rest of my belongings. Amanda was waiting, her appearance noticeably different. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup, replaced by sweatpants and tired eyes. My credit card was declined yesterday, she said immediately. The car payment is due tomorrow. I do not have the money, Sterling. Have you asked Jared for help? I inquired, continuing to pack my things. Her expression confirmed my suspicion. He says he is not in a position to help financially right now. Of course he was not. Jared had wanted the fun of an affair without the responsibility of a relationship. Now that Amanda needed actual support, he was nowhere to be found. I made a terrible mistake, she said, tears flowing now. You were the better man all along. We can fix this, start over. I paused my packing and really looked at her. For the first time, I saw clearly what our relationship had been. I had been a provider, an ATM, with emotions that could be manipulated when necessary. You do not need to start over with me, I said quietly. You need to start over with yourself. Get a job. Pay your own bills. Build a life that belongs to you, not one that depends on a man's wallet. But I love you, she insisted. No, I replied, closing my suitcase. You love what I provided. There is a difference. As I headed for the door with the last of my possessions, she asked the question that confirmed I was making the right choice. So, what about next month's rent? Are you really going to leave me homeless? I turned back one last time. The lease is paid through the end of the month. What happens after that is up to you. That night in the small apartment I had hastily rented across town, I slept better than I had in weeks. The financial burden I had carried for so long was lifted, and with it the emotional weight of a relationship built on uneven ground. 2 months after ending things with Amanda, I was surprised by how quickly my financial situation improved. Without supporting 2 people on one income, my savings account grew steadily. I furnished my new apartment modestly, but comfortably started contributing more to my retirement accounts, and even treated myself to a weekend fishing trip with Kyle and some friends. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard updates about Amanda's situation. Unable to pay the apartment rent, she had moved in with a classmate temporarily. She had taken a waitressing job at an upscale restaurant, working evenings and weekends while continuing her design classes on a reduced schedule. Her car had been repossessed after 3 missed payments, and Jared had ended things completely once he realized Amanda expected financial support. According to gossip from her classmates, he had already moved on to another design student following the same pattern of expensive dates and empty promises. 6 weeks after our breakup, Amanda made one final attempt to reconnect, showing up at my new apartment unannounced. How did you find my address? I asked, surprised to see her standing at my door. Derek told me, she admitted. I told him I needed to return something of yours. She looked different again, not the polished image she had maintained when I was funding her lifestyle, but not the disheveled version from our last encounter either. She had found a middle ground, stylish but within her means. I wanted you to know that I moved in with Jared, she said, a hint of triumph in her voice. He finally stepped up. I wished her well, and closed the door, feeling only relief. 2 weeks later, Derek confirmed what I had suspected. The arrangement with Jared had lasted exactly 18 days before imploding spectacularly when he discovered she expected him to cover all her expenses. My healing process was both financial and emotional. I started seeing a therapist to understand why I had so willingly placed myself in the provider role and how I could build healthier relationships in the future. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my relationship with Amanda, rebuilding a social circle based on genuine connections rather than obligation. Most importantly, I reclaimed my sense of self-worth beyond my wallet. I had always tied my value as a partner to what I could provide materially. My therapist helped me recognize that this mindset had made me vulnerable to someone like Amanda. Generosity is a wonderful quality, Dr. Reynolds told me during one session, but it should flow from mutual respect and love, not serve as a substitute for them. 6 months after the breakup, I met Elise at a friend's barbecue. She was an accountant with a sharp wit and an independence that was immediately apparent. On our first date, she insisted on splitting the check, establishing from the beginning that ours would be a relationship of equals. When I eventually shared my experience with Amanda, Elise shook her head in disbelief. I cannot imagine taking advantage of someone like that. My parents raised me to stand on my own feet. As our relationship developed, we established clear financial boundaries. We alternated paying for dates. When we discussed moving in together after a year of dating, we created a detailed budget with proportional contributions based on our incomes. When I offered to help with something extra, it came from genuine care, not obligation or expectation. Looking back now, I can identify the red flags I missed with Amanda: her lack of financial planning, her constant escalation of expenses, her discomfort with discussions about money unless she was requesting more. But I also recognize my own role in establishing an unhealthy dynamic. The most valuable lesson from this experience was learning the difference between supporting a partner and enabling dependency. True partnership means standing beside someone as they build their own life, not carrying them at the expense of your own well-being. I do not regret the money spent during those 3 years. I consider it tuition paid for an essential life lesson, that my value in a relationship has nothing to do with my wallet and everything to do with who I am as a person. That lesson has been worth every penny. Today, Elise and I have a relationship built on mutual respect, shared goals, and genuine love. We support each other emotionally, intellectually, and yes, sometimes financially, when circumstances require it. But that support flows both ways, creating balance rather than dependency. As for Amanda, I heard she eventually completed her design degree, taking longer than planned as she worked to support herself. In an ironic twist, she found success designing budget-friendly home makeovers for young professionals, drawing on her own experience of adapting to financial reality. I wish her well. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop sheltering them from the consequences of their own choices. In cutting off financial support, I forced Amanda to develop self-reliance she might never have discovered otherwise. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect yourself financially or emotionally? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences. And consider sharing this video with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries is not selfish but necessary for healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the most valuable investment is in your own worth and dignity.